Hi everyone, I am Manoranjan Barman and I welcome you to my YouTube channel. Today I am going to talk about haematopoiesis or hemopoiesis. If we break the term haematopoiesis, then we will get two words. One is hemato. Hemato means blood. Blood means all the blood cells like red blood cells, white blood cells and platelets. And poiesis means formation. Now we can say the process of formation of blood cells are known as haematopoiesis or hemopoiesis. In the case of adult life, there is a specialized tissue called bone marrow, which is present within the bone and is responsible for haematopoiesis. Within the bone, there are some hematopoietic stem cells, which produces all the blood cells, red blood cells, white blood cells and platelets as well. Hematopoietic stem cells are specialized cells which can give rise to all the blood cells and it can renew itself to maintain its population. In adult, hematopoiesis occurs inside the bone marrow. Then how about the hematopoiesis during the embryonic life before the development of bone marrow? In the human embryo, the yolk sac is the main site of hematopoiesis in the third week of gestation. Your stem cells will appear in the yolk sac during that period and it will perform hematopoiesis. By about third month, the stem cells will move to the liver and spleen, and however, the liver and spleen are the main site of hematopoiesis from the third month of embryonic life till birth. By the fourth and fifth month of embryonic life, bone marrow will also start producing blood cells, but the dominant hematopoiesis will be performed by the liver and spleen. Remember, just before the birth, all the bones will develop active bone marrow so that it can perform active hematopoiesis from the birth onwards. So after birth, all the bone marrow are capable of producing blood cells because it contains active bone marrow, and your liver and spleen will stop producing blood cells after birth. The bone marrow is the only source of new blood cells during normal childhood and adult life. One important point you need to remember that inside the bone there are two types of bone marrow. One is the red bone marrow and the other is yellow bone marrow. Red bone marrow is responsible for hematopoiesis. That means all the red blood cells, white blood cells and platelets will be produced by the red bone marrow. But the yellow bone marrow cannot produce blood cells. Yellow bone marrow stores lipids as triglycerides. After birth, all the bones will contain red bone marrow to perform active hematopoiesis. However, during the childhood, the red bone marrow will be replaced by some fatty tissue throughout the long bones. So in adult life, all the bones will not contain red bone marrow. As a result, hematopoiesis will be confined only to the central skeleton like vertebra, sternum, ribs, skull, sacrum, pelvis and proximal ends of femur, tibia and humerus. All the bones will not produce blood cells. In adult, 50% bone marrow is red bone marrow and 50% bone marrow is yellow bone marrow. There are two important terms which you need to know. One is medullary hematopoiesis. Medullary hematopoiesis means in normal healthy adult, hematopoiesis occurs from the bone marrow. It is known as medullary hematopoiesis. So bone marrow is the only site of hematopoiesis in healthy adult. That means in healthy adult, all the blood cells will be formed from the bone marrow inside the bone. And the another term is extramedullary hematopoiesis. Extramedullary hematopoiesis means if hematopoiesis occurs other than the bone is termed as extramedullary hematopoiesis. Medullary means bone, extramedullary means outside the bone. So it is not a normal phenomenon. So your liver and spleen can resume their fetal hematopoietic role in certain pathological conditions like myeloproliferative neoplasm. In these conditions, your bone marrow will stop producing red blood cells and your liver and spleen will start produce your red blood cells. This is a very important point. Now we will have a look into the bone. From the bone marrow, how the blood cells are produced. All the blood cells like red blood cells, white blood cells like neutrophil, eosinophil, basophil, lymphocyte, monocyte and platelets are produced from a common origin called pluripotent hematopoietic stem cell. This is the pluripotent hematopoietic stem cell. This is the original cell from which all the blood cells are derived. Pluripotent hematopoietic stem cell will give rise to two types of multipotent progenitors. One is common lymphoid progenitors, from which all the lymphoid cells will be derived. There is common myeloid progenitor or common myeloid stem cell. This is known as trilineage also because it will derive 3 cell lines. Common lymphoid stem cell will give rise to the precursor lymphoid cells. The lymphoid precursor will give rise to B cells, that means B lymphocytes, T lymphocytes means T cells, and NK cells, that means natural killer cells. There is another cells called plasma cells which are derived from the B lymphocytes, and that is very important in the immunity. Now move on to the myeloid stem cells. I have already told you it will give 3 cell lines. That's why it is known as trilineage or trilineage. So the myeloid stem cells will first give rise to the granulocyte and monocyte precursors. The granulocyte and monocyte precursors will give rise to granulocyte, that is neutrophil, eosinophil, basophil, and monocyte. First, the granulocyte monocyte precursor will give rise to neutrophil, eosinophil, and basophil. These 3 cells, neutrophil, eosinophil, and basophil, are known as granulocyte because it has granules in their cytoplasm. And granulocyte and monocyte precursor will again give rise to monocyte. There is a specialized immune cells called macrophage which is derived from the monocyte, which has phagocytic activity. We have completed granulocyte and monocyte precursor. Now we are going to discuss about the erythroid progenitor. Erythroid progenitor will give rise to red blood cells. And the last one is megakaryocyte progenitor. Megakaryocyte progenitor will give rise to platelets. So now you can see myeloid stem cells is giving rise to 3 cell lines. So one is granulocyte monocyte precursor, another is erythroid precursor, and megakaryocyte precursor. This is the basic about hematopoiesis. If you look at the specific cell line, some separate terminologies are there. Let's say the process of production of red blood cells are known as erythropoiesis. The process of production of white blood cells are termed as leukopoiesis. To be specific, production of lymphocyte means lymphopoiesis. The production of monocyte means monopoiesis. The production of granulocyte, that means neutrophil, eosinophil, basophil, are termed as granulopoiesis, and the production of platelets are termed as thrombopoiesis. So this is the basic about hematopoiesis. This is all for today. Please like, share and comment, and those who are new to my channel and have not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching.